Welcome to This Week in X, where we get together to talk about every X-Men issue out every week. And this issue is X-Men 17, out on the 27th of January, 2021. We do that because we think X-Men comics are better when they are read together. And so that's why we assembled to do this. And while we were talking about them, we can spoil just about anything. We're going to talk about every detail of this issue. We're going to talk about past issues. We're going to talk about what we think could even happen in future issues. So if you're trying to be a spoiler avoidant person, you need to turn off this program, although we very much hope that you do not. Before we get to our lightning round on X-Men 17, I think there is one thing that we need to discuss about the creative team on this title. And I'm going to be the one who says it, but all four of us took a look at this and all agree on the words that I'm about to say here. So this week, some comic outlets have decided not to cover X-Men 17 because it is drawn by artist Brett Booth. Crushing Comics exists to provide comprehensive coverage of comics, whether that's via collecting guides or multimedia discussion. And This Week in X is just one part of that. In over 10 years of coverage, Crushing Comics has never excluded a specific comic or a run in guides or in discussion because of its creators, even when the actions of those creators have been objectionable, harmful, or even unlawful. In the case of Brett Booth, his words online have incited and supported the harassment of a female critic. Separately, he has used language associated with religious discrimination and anti-Semitism. In 2014, Booth tweeted in response to a critique, not of his own work, by an experienced woman editor and journalist that it was, quote, the most biased nitpick comic article I've very read. That's what he wrote. As he continued to engage in that discussion, his remarks repeatedly included sexist and misogynist language and harassment of the critic. Booth's initial tweet and the ongoing engagement can be correlated with an ongoing harassment campaign against the critic that escalated to include threats of violence and specifically sexual violence. The Daily Beast covered this very thoroughly in an article in 2014. Starting in 2012 and continuing through the present, Booth has written blog posts and tweets critical of several different organized religions, which has included language and concepts that are very specifically related to both Islamophobia and anti-Semitism. Crushing Comics rejects sexism, misogyny, religious discrimination, racism, and all other forms of bigotry and the harassment that they inspire and endorse. Our covering a comic is not an endorsement of the comic or its creators. Our mission is to be comprehensive in our comics coverage and discussions, and we're going to attempt to continue to do so for you every week. All right, we are going to now have our from the gut, off the cuff go round on X-Men number 17, starting with Tyler.
It is the weakest Hickman X-Men issue by far. The art is very 90s, so you either love it or hate it. One lightning bolt out of 5.
Harry.
Right, so yeah, I don't like Brett Booth's art, so I was not looking forward to this in the slightest. It wasn't as bad as I thought, but this book has nothing of merit. Now, that doesn't mean I hated this issue. This doesn't mean that I have a lot, like I just fundamentally don't really know what to say about it because it's so utterly boring on every page. And, you know, Hickman, a writer who I enjoy quite a bit, I don't even think there's anything here that's fun or snappy or bombastic or epic from him. It like I read this book and then I finished it and I wasn't sure if I had read it. I didn't know if I like entered another state of being. I don't know. So if I could like think about it enough to give it a score, I would give it 1.5. But again, I might be still in like a dream state right now, so I can't give it a score.
Fariha.
So this is the most Claremonting, like, you know, X-Men issue I've read, not written by Claremont, you know, and that's depending on how much I have read Claremont. This is exactly 104, issue 104 or 105, one of the issue when they went into space. It was shot for shot remake of that issue in a lot of ways. And because, I mean, it's just, I don't know. I mean, I didn't like it then. I'm not liking it now, like 50 years later, like, you know, when I'm reading it. I'm going to give it 2 sudden costume change out of 5.
So, you know, I have to say that I've read Brett Booth art on comics for a really long time. I have his entire Backlash run from Wildstorm. And without passing any kind of value judgment on whether the art is good or I like the art or not, the thing that struck me about this is having art that has motion in it brings more to a Hickman script that is a pretty dull script. And if you would have seen the script drawn by you, or even by Noto, who we love, I think we would be saying really similar things to what we said last week about like, why are there so many shots here? Why are we lingering on the scene? Nothing's moving, nothing's happening. I don't think that's a problem in this particular issue. And for that, I actually was able to like it a little bit more because I just don't like how ponderously slow moving this Hickman run is. But saying that, I just don't think there's anything here. I don't know that the script ever really decides what really is this rebel's position, what really is this thing he's rebelling against that makes him want to kidnap Zandra. I just don't know that it knows. I don't think it knows why Storm is there. I don't think it really knows anything. So I did enjoy some aspects of it because it was snappy, and I'm asking for that in X-Men, but I think it really fell down in a lot of other ways. I think there's a couple of interesting things still to take apart here. One of which is a cosmetic thing, but we might as well talk about it because it's front and center, which is that Scott and Jean are in their X Factor costumes for no reason. And looking into it, it seems that maybe it was Booth's call that he could put them into whatever costumes they want. They don't really comment on it. But I just think seeing Jean not in a miniskirt, I'm sorry, I'm just one of these fans, I can't let it go. It just let her do more, like leaping into a scene. We didn't have to worry about like carefully making sure that we weren't going to get an upskirt of her. Like it let her be a physical combatant, which Hickman does and does not take advantage of here. In one sense, I think it was a good Jean issue because Jean does something. Like she takes initiative to say to Oracle, like, I'm not saying you're a bad psychic. I'm saying I have different methods as a psychic who's looked into these kind of things before, which was fun for me. I'm like, yes, Jean does have different ways of doing this. But then later at the same time, she's like, oh, Cyclops has gotten a knock on the head. We have to flee.
Oh, mercy.
So, I don't know. You have to temper my Jean-dom. This is like the one character that I get a little fanny about and like can't be critical. So was it a good Jean issue or a bad Jean issue, Fariha?
Oh, me?
Yeah. Who's got the Jean shirt on, Fariha?
I do have the Jean shirt on.
I don't know, Marvel Girl. Try harder. Like,
Yeah.
Okay, so the thing is, I don't know. I don't know what to even think or what to even say because unlike you, I'm not actually a Jean fan because I have not actually seen Jean, because we talked about in another episode of the economy of or the celebration of women's suffering. I feel like Jean is the front and center of it all the time. And I was just like, either we are truly, Hickman and I are truly soulmate that he hates this character like me, or he really, I don't know, or he doesn't really understand how to get this character or what it is. Like, there was so many kick-ass moments. And then also, this is a Claremont issue. I'm telling you, Claremont probably wrote it because like Claremont, she will do a lot of kick-ass thing and then she will be taken down a notch. Here it is, the same exact thing. She does some kick-ass thing and then she's taken down a notch for a man who has cheated on her multiple times, who has a child with someone that he settled her with, who is doing I don't know. I don't know what to say.
Harry.
She looked good.
Oh,
Nice, she looked good.
Her hair was great.
Yeah.
It was great.
I mean,
she was
Harry.
yeah, man. Talk about
From
hair.
an art perspective, just from art, I did like that they just had completely different costumes because Hickman brought that up when this was all getting going. He was saying, mutants can wear whatever costumes they want. It seemed like he was encouraging that you could see different uniforms throughout the book. We haven't really gotten that much because, we've had one artist with Lanil Yu mostly and Noto, but I liked that there was just a completely different look for this. If they want to keep that going forward, have different costumes, that sounds like fun. That would be interesting. I would love something interesting in this book. But yeah, Jean was fine. She got knocked out. Yeah, other stuff happened. I think I'm pretty sure. I think Jean looks cool in this. I think it's kind of like a cool costume, and I don't have a lot of experience with this period, so I liked reading it.
So Tyler, you're the one who knows the most history of Jean here, other than me. Yeah. Is it a good Jean issue or a bad Jean issue?
It is a bad Jean issue for me because the art is very Jim Lee era. Like in fact, I think there are like two poses where it's almost a copy of like Jim Lee's art from his, when he was drawing her somehow. But that aside, Jean has more powers than just telepathy. So I don't understand why she needs Smasher to hold her hand when they're flying.
I was so confused. Like if it was Cannonball and they were flying, you'd be like, well, he's invulnerable when he's blasting. But Smasher, I just didn't understand. There were so many moments where I was like, it's like we remembered what she does for a second, and then we've forgotten what she does. Then I don't know.
Exactly. And then like we did earlier on, she was like a damsel in distress. Oh, Scott is out. Oh no, we got to leave now. Help! I mean, it's like, seriously?
Yeah.
Why?
Seriously?
Yeah. Laser face is down. Oh no, flee.
Yeah.
God.
He was our big heavy hitter. That's a separate character. Oh no, maybe it's Taserface, but it's a separate character. I'm not trying to confuse the characters. All right, so I think our second go round, and I'm focusing on some of the characters because we'll get to the plot, which honestly didn't make much sense, but we'll talk about that. So we get more of Jonathan Hickman's strange internet fan fiction of Sam and Bobby's relationship here via a data page about I don't know. I mean, I really love them as like they're such great positive male platonic friends that they can tell each other that they like how they smell as they emerge from the bath. But also it's just like, it's like this comedy beat that's held over from New Mutants, and the X-Men book hasn't really been funny other than maybe a little bit in the Brood story. And it just really was jarring to me tonally because it was like that New Mutants tone, but it was here in X-Men. I don't know. Tyler, what did you think about the Sammy and Bob? The good ship Sammy and Bob. The good ship Sam Bob.
That was the only part which I kind of like, oh, okay. He's back in form because, he obviously loves these two characters, and he loves, playing up their relationship as in like, it's platonic, right?
Yeah.
That kind of thing. So I thought it was fun. I mean, that part is fun. I mean, yeah.
No, that's like the closest. It's like got the closest thing to personality that this book has. And sometimes when Hickman writes it, it's a bit too much of Sam and Bobby. I want to like it more than I do, but like I like it when he writes these two characters. I liked it when he wrote them in Avengers. So like I'm like, I understand this. I can latch onto this a bit. So that was fun. He draws a creepy looking Sam though. Sorry, Booth does. Anyway.
Fariha, thoughts on Sam and Bobby, who you know well from Avengers?
Right. So, I mean, that's where my initial, introduction to them. And I went on to read other stories where Sam appeared. I enjoyed it, but I just don't understand why this is a data page. That seems a little, so is this like a texting that they're doing? Because if that is the case, then put it in a text form. So we kind of know that this is a texting. That would have been so much nicer versus this seems like someone spied on them and wrote it up, which is a little weird. Or
it was the kid.
Booth didn't have enough time to draw this, I mean, I laughed out loud when it's like, when you talk, I promise I'll always listen, always. And then Cannonball, look, Bobby, you know what is it? Hold that thought, Sam. I'm getting a call. So that was very funny. But the thing is, this should have appeared in text, text message format, where it's like a two-person talking, like you can do those kind of things nowadays. But versus when it's like,
it's definitely not a text messaging because he was Cannonball was interrupted. So
it's just an audio log.
Yeah. It's just weird. It's like a strange use of a data page because it's literally just comic script. Like it feels like script. It's script that Hickman wrote that the editorial team was like, no, you cannot have 2 pages extra in this issue to have this domestic moment with Sam and Bobby. And he's like, fine, well, it's going to be our data page. So there. Like it doesn't really feel like, not that you can, we've seen people do all sorts of different stuff with the data pages, but in this specific instance, it really just feels like it was a scene that was cut for space, which is and
And it should be in New Mutant, not in here.
Yes. Everything that Sam and Bobby do, everything Hickman writes with Sam and Bobby just feels like Hickman just cutting loose and just being weird with like his bromance stuff. Like just restraints or control be damned. He's just going to get really indulgent with it. And I think that has been good and bad. And this is good. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
So let's talk a little bit about the actual plot of this issue. So Zandra,
but before we move on,
sure.
Hold on. Before we move on, you need to start talk about one thing that Cannonball says about child upbringing.
Yeah,
because that is important.
I went off just in one tweet. So when you're the parent of a child, regardless of your gender role as a parent, you're never babysitting, you're parenting, because you babysitting implies that anytime you're not there, that the other partner is babysitting, but that the other partner is babysitting like 99% of the time. That's not a thing that we as male-bodied parents need to be saying, that we're babysitting. We're parenting. That's what we're doing because we're parents. Now, I can understand that some couples, right, might have it where they say they're parenting while they're together, but if one of them's out and the other one's kind of minding the homestead, they would both say babysitting. And like, I can understand that. But the implication here is very much that like, oh, my wife had to go out and do her job, so I'm babysitting. And it just, I'm not saying it's bad writing. This is not a comment on Hickman. It actually is like really in keeping with like Cannonball. He's got an interesting growth path, right? His father dies when he's quite young, and his mother is the only parent, and he had a very idealized childhood with these two parents in this huge family with lots and lots of kids, and then his father dies, and his mother's job becomes very much keeping them all alive. And as the child of a single parent, like I have a lot of times that I feel very confused about my role in this household because there's two of us, and it's not like just one of us has to do everything. And I just think I'm not complaining about this writing at all. I'm yelling at Cannonball, the character, but I think as somebody who identifies with him a little bit, I think it's actually really interesting to see that he still hasn't like owned that they're a unit and they're both parents and they're parenting together. So it just made me remark, and male parents out there, you're not babysitting, you're parenting. Okay.
To that point, I feel like he is saying that because that's the way Sunspot understands it.
Oh, interesting. You think because he's such a himbo that Sam is like, I'm the babysitter, sitting the baby.
Okay.
Because he actually kind of says that, after all, I'm not just a superhero, Bobby, I'm a superhero dad. So I feel like he just have to lay it out for him. This is how I don't know. I thought that it was very interesting that you picked up on that.
Well, and Bobby historically,
as the only parent in this.
Yeah. And Bobby historically, he's like very Bobby centered. Like Bobby always looks at what it's going to look like for Bobby. Sometimes that makes him great and it makes him brave and it makes him make good decisions, but it's always very centered on himself. So it's interesting that you bring that up. Like, for all of my fetching about Hickman's characterization, he does understand these two characters extraordinarily well. I don't love funny Bobby, but it really, really connects. You can go right back to New Mutants #1, and this makes total sense.
Yeah.
Now let's talk about plot. So in Mr. and Mrs. X by Kelly Thompson, Gambit and Rogue discover this egg, which turns out to be the artificially grown child of Lilandra and Xavier Zandra. And in the first arc of New Mutants by Rice and Hickman, she's finally installed in her rightful place on the Shi'ar throne. But now there's this conflict happening. Can anyone explain it? I've read the issue 3 times now, and I can't. Harry, you're up.
Yeah, the only thing I don't know. I'm just pretty dang sure because a lot of this book is dealing with like a monetary financial collapse and kind of like conflict stemming from that. And I should have reread to be sure, but I'm pretty sure this was introduced in Al Ewing's Guardians book right now.
Oh, so you think this is an extension of that, which is also kind of like tied up a little bit with King in Black? You think it's part of that whole?
I think so. I remember in the Guardians book them talking about there being some major like financial crisis and no one really having money. So that's where I think whatever this villain's name is, where a lot of that's coming from. Or.
Yeah.
That's the name. That's his name.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I forgot. I'm not even kidding.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
I mean,
Tyler.
isn't he like Ronan the Accuser?
He looks like he
No.
sucks. I don't
Yeah,
know
and
what
He
then
this
has a
guy's
he's like-
name
hammer,
is.
but he's not.
He's the
Ronan.
welder.
not.
Wow, he's a welder of the Great Maw of Stygreer.
Yeah.
He-
I don't know what that means.
Whoa, Tyler, you actually
I mean,
remember that?
I wrote it down, so I'm looking at it. And I mean, I'm not sure if actually knows how an empire works. You make a blood sacrifice when no one knows of it and no one knows the motive of it. Will not liberate anything. It's like,
Just gonna plunge it into more chaos.
yeah, you're just a murderer, basically. End of story.
I don't think this guy's a big thinker. He looks like he sucks. He's got like one head plate. He's got like antlers. He's got like shoulder pads with little circles in them. I guess it just matches boots and there's his knee guards, so that's good.
No, but I mean, it's also very confusing as to how the X-Men and Smasher intended to rescue the Empress, because they basically stormed the area where she's held captive. They have no intel on how many or who were there. Jean said that the assassin's mind is a soup. You do not, and also, Smasher call for backup and do not wait for backup to arrive. And then got to call for backup again in the middle of a rescue op. I was like, and then got thrown forward, rushed Scott from the side, and knocked him unconscious from the back.
Yeah. So
when that panel where he's swinging, I looked at it like 3 times. Like, how did you hit Scott in this? Like, it doesn't.
Yeah,
I don't.
He came from
see
the
it.
side. He came from the side, and then he knocked him out the back. So
I
was
don't.
like,
Okay.
So before we even get to this, I'm still stuck on the first page. I do think that it's specifically attributing Cochrum's crazy space battles in the early part of X-Men, which I think was Fariha's picking up on. Like, this splash is like legit meant to reference that. I absolutely believe that. But
that one
I just
believe too.
I just want to take it like word caption by caption as I try to parse this. Okay, the first caption, I'm not going to read them all, but the first one is like, the galaxy is in turmoil. Got it. The second one says, despite past turmoil, commerce has been the thing that has kept this quadrant going. Okay, I'm still with you. Then the third one says, warlike or savage, ancient or cultured, having to have some kind of network related to that gives them interconnectedness through banks, through credit systems, through black markets, etc. Until now. And the until now page has Skrull and Kree, who are all, spoilers, part of the same empire now because of Empire. And then you have one of those horse people from Hickman's Fantastic Four, and also from Power Pack, right? That's the Power Pack horse, the White Eagle horse.
Chimeri?
Chimerians. That sounds right. And but things are not intact. But it almost shows the Skrull and the Kree guy fighting, which like doesn't make any sense because they're the same empire now. Okay, continuing. So then it says, whether Shi'ar or Brood, Kree or Skrull, Wrath or Chameleon, there you go. Along with the galactic currency, worlds are collapsing and only are kept in line by the might of the Praetor, which is what's his name? Purple Superman.
Gladiator.
The boy.
And so I'm like, okay, so it's all falling apart, which maybe is a nod to Empire, but like, why are we not saying anything? This was always going to come out 7 issues after Empire is done. And then it just ends by saying, these are not yet the black days of the end times, but the sun is setting, and basically like all this stuff is weak now, and the Majestics has disappeared. And so like, what did we learn? What happened there?
So,
all that I got from that is like the economic markets are a little bit weaker. That's it.
Yes.
I've read it now
That's
6 times, and I still cannot figure out what I'm being told.
This is setting up Sword.
You
Because
think
we
so?
talked about it, how every Hickman issue sets up another series. So
Do you think it
this
was
is
supposed to
setting
come
up
before Sword?
Something. They'd have
Okay.
to be. Or else I'm lost. Or else I'm lost. I mean, it's just like it felt so weird though. The placement of it is so weird.
Yeah.
Like we talked about election, finishing up all of that, and now we're talking about, which is also very Claremont.
But is it supposed okay, if you're saying that this is setting up Sword, so we are setting up Storm to be part of Sword.
Yes. Maybe this is part of that Storm handoff. The reason we keep saying that is because in the one promo image of things to come, Storm was pictured with one of those objects like what we saw in the first issue of Sword. So even though it's not been like
Pyramid.
announced, her whole like leaving Marauders, then here we like think she's being transitioned to space stuff, pure conjecture. So the other thing that made me laugh is like, so Sunspot's going to call in some X-Men as a result of whatever this problem is that has led to Lilandra being kidnapped by this very not deep thinking villain. Zandra.
Yeah.
And so Sunspot's like, I know a guy, and Deathbird calls them up, and so they send Scott, Jean, and Storm. I'm like,
weird pick.
It was a very strange pick.
Yeah.
They were probably just hanging out doing nothing. They're no longer in the council. They're no longer in the Marauders. They're doing nothing. So, hey, you guys, instead of teaching the kids, go to the space.
And I think that, go ahead, Harry.
I don't want to cut to the end. Was there anything that was the point of this book beyond just Storm getting a favor? Or like getting a position?
I actually think that part of the whole point of the book was them saying that we've been in a saving the day kind of mood. It almost feels like Hickman's like, see, there are things we need in a away team that are the X-Men to do. Look what happens when the Shi'ar have a problem. And then it's like, oh, and Scott got hit on the head. Let's add some more members. Like it really, like I think he's setting up something that's happening in Sword, and I think he's like trying to justify why this team is a thing. And I think that's the whole purpose of this book.
It's not very good at that.
I don't know. I mean, I have so many questions. Like, how did Storm stop the hammer?
With lightning, Tyler.
How?
Lightning. Use lightning, okay? That stops hammers.
It was a feat, okay? She can stop hammers with lightning. It's a feat. It's established. Now we know.
And then why did Jean congratulate Xander at the end? Oh, congratulations. We rescued you. I'm like,
because I think this is the first time she's seeing that she's taken her rightful place, right? So she's giving congratulations for that.
No, but she took her rightful place at the end of New Mutants arc.
Yeah, but Jean hasn't met her before this.
Yeah,
no, she's just being polite.
Yeah,
But I mean, that's what I thought.
And also, I think the Shi'ar owes X-Men even before this, like the New Mutant arc itself, right? I mean, the New Mutants saved Xander from Oracle and the other guy who was plotting to get her killed, and so I don't understand why they need another plot so that they owe Storm a debt. Like, it's a repeat of. I don't know.
And where is absentee Dad Xavier? Final go round. Is there any small thing you would like to pick out from this issue as a parting shot?
I think this issue might have defeated us, but I think we need to rally next week. No, I mean there's nothing here. There's literally nothing. There's no personality, no kind of Hickman writing. The art's bland as can be. I also, I was kind of having fun seeing how few panels had people with feet in them. They're always just
he was having trouble with legs, which is funny because on Twitter, Booth gives people anatomy help on drawings. Like they send him drawings and he'll be like, oh, I think you should try this, that. And he does have a good grasp of anatomy, but he was having so much trouble making sure that Jean's legs were going in the same direction. And it really took me out. On the one page, I just stopped and stared like it was an MC Escher painting for like 5 minutes to be like, how do legs do that? Anyway, sorry.
Like I like Hickman a lot. Fariha, I know you do too.
Yes.
I like giving this guy the benefit of the doubt. But like my thought has been with the X-Men book it's been pretty good. Part of it feels like not a placeholder book, but a book that's just kind of hidden the basics while it's setting up things for other books to capitalize on. And I was like, maybe that's being unfair. But I'm reading something like this, then yeah, that's absolutely what it is. Because there's nothing here to justify it existing. There's just not. Like, I know we talked already about, if maybe having some moral quandaries through reading a Brett Booth issue. You could, if you need it, it's easy with this one because it's so skippable.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that to me is why, like, I'm happy we talked about it. Like, I don't want to confer the idea that it's skippable just because it has a certain creator on it. Like, let's talk about the fact that it's low quality. That's just my approach to all comics. Like, I never want to shy away from a comic and let people be like, oh, maybe it was good. You won't know. No, we know. We read it.
We read it. We read it in depth.
So you don't have to.
Multiple times.
Yeah.
Yes. No, but the thing is, like, I'm coming off reading Hickman's East of West, which I know that Peter doesn't like, but you know, it's incredible. From the 45 issue, it's incredible, the world building and everything. So from there, coming to this, I'm like, oh, like, you know,
Yeah. And,
like,
I mean, the only thing I'm going to point out, like, that we didn't cover, and it's not much, is that I don't understand why Scott and Jean is acting so lovey-dovey on a mission.
Hey, married couples can be
touching him.
They reignited their spark, Tyler.
Yeah.
Living on the moon.
On the
Bring
mission.
someone
love in their
else
open
you know what
bedroom.
happens? Sometimes
Yeah, bring someone else into the bedroom.
No, so sometimes exactly. I was just gonna say though, it's sometimes when relationships stall, you bring like a stinky small person into your relationship,
Or
and
Emma
suddenly
Frost.
You begin to realize, and you begin to realize, wow, this other person is actually amazing. You know, at least Jean's realizing that. No, wait, is Emma in their relationship too?
Yeah.
Go look at the moon map back at X-Men #1. Okay.
I thought it was
Yeah.
Wolverine and him.
No,
And
no.
Emma and Jean sharing the beer at the end of Hawks.
Yeah.
Anyway.
And
I
Emma
enjoy-
and Jean sharing clothes.
Can we get that book about the weird like the romantic like quadrangle? Can we do like something that's not
There's
just
no
like
quadrangle, okay?
Oh,
Emma
sorry, just-
does not touch.
okay? Fair.
Let's
Yeah,
get that
see,
out of the way.
I would rather
The
read
vector,
that than
okay? It doesn't meet in the two sides. They don't
God.
go together.
this. Yeah, I just want to say this book was like could have been written by like an algorithm. Like this book cannot pass the Turing test. Like I don't. I'm sorry.
I thought I was harsh.
I'm gonna
I'm
leave
getting.
with one art positive, which I don't just think is a boot thing. It's just a thing I like. He lets women take up as much room on the page as men without just making them like buxom. Like there's even Deathbird who has this like bustier costume. It's really not about the TNA. Jean has a small waist, but like she's got hips here. She has muscle tone.
Yeah.
Like this is kind of I one of the reasons that over time I enjoy Booth sometimes is because he will actually sexualize the men in his art sometimes more. Like the men, it's like I feel like Cyclops. Every picture of him starts with his crotch here. Like it's kind of hard to look away from. And I just kind of like that. Like Jean, Storm, Deathbird, they take up space on the page. They're women that have like bodies that even though they're still accentuated, they're accentuated with like hips and muscles instead of just being like narrow. And I just like that. I think if you're gonna do this kind of Lee 90s pastiche, at least like update it a little bit from what it would have looked like in 1991. That is it for our discussion of X-Men 17. Possibly too much, in your opinion. I don't know. We want to thank you for tuning in and listening and let you know that we're going to keep talking about every X-Men issue that comes out in this line until the whole line just wears us down. And then finally, maybe we'll give up. But until then, This Week in X will be here every week because we really feel that X-Men comic books are what, Fariha?
It's better when it's read together.
That's right. So we want to thank you all so much for being with us today. If you were looking for the other issues that were out on the 27th of January, just look elsewhere on our channel. And until next time, we're so happy that you joined us. And on behalf of Fariha, Tyler, Harry, and myself, we wish you well.
Bye.
Bye.